By the time Lena Ashbourne realized they had skipped her name, half the village had already seen it happen. The royal eligibility presentation filled Graymore Square from the stone well to the chapel steps. Balconies crowded and merchant stalls shuttered early, so people could watch the eligible women receive their silver tokens for that night's mating ball. Lena stood near the back in a simple sage wool dress beneath her winter cloak, hands tucked into the sleeves against the cold. She had not come dreaming of becoming queen. She had come because 6 days earlier, while delivering fever tonic to the registrar's wife, she had seen her own name on the preliminary list. Lena Ashbourne. Omega. Age 24. Eligible. That had been enough. One by one, the names were called. Mariel Fenn. Applause. A silver token. Tessa Oro. More applause. Celeste Ashbourne. The square brightened with approving murmurs. Celeste stepped forward in a burgundy gown, trimmed with pale fur, dark hair pinned high, every movement polished for the audience. Lord Garrick Ashbourne stood near the front with the satisfied posture of a man watching an investment mature. The registrar placed the silver token in Celeste's gloved hand. She turned, smiling toward the crowd. Her eyes found Lena. The smile sharpened. More names followed, then fewer, then none. The registrar closed the leather-bound book. Lena waited one heartbeat. Then two. You missed one. Her voice was not loud, but the square had begun to quiet. Heads turned. The registrar frowned. Pardon? My name. Lena stepped forward. Lena Ashbourne. A ripple moved through the spectators. The registrar reopened the book and ran one finger down the page. He stopped. Something in his expression changed. Celeste watched from 3 paces away. The registrar cleared his throat. There is no Lena Ashbourne registered as eligible. The words carried. I saw my name on the preliminary registry 6 days ago. A woman near the front whispered, then perhaps it was corrected. Someone laughed under his breath. The registrar turned the book slightly. Lena saw the line immediately. Ineligible bloodline, unverified. For a moment, the cold disappeared beneath a rush of anger. That wasn't there 6 days ago. This is the official record. Lena leaned closer. The notation was darker than the surrounding entries, the strokes heavier, newer. She had spent years measuring tinctures by color, reading fresh bruising from old, watching dried blood change at the edge of a wound. Ink was not so different. Someone changed it. The first laugh came from behind her. Then another. A noble woman beside her grown son shifted him farther from Lena, as though questionable ancestry might be contagious. Unverified blood? A young woman murmured. And she thought she could stand before the Alpha King? I didn't say that. The registrar's face hardened. Be careful, Miss Ashbourne. Accusing the Crown Registry of fraud is a serious offense. I accused no one. I said the entry was changed. Which implies, Lena. Celeste's voice cut across his. She approached with her silver token hanging from 2 fingers. The crowd eased around her, eager, now that humiliation promised a second act. Celeste glanced at the altered entry, then at Lena. Perhaps the Crown finally learned the difference between an eligible Omega and household charity. A few people laughed openly. Lena heard Garrick exhale through his nose, not quite approval, not quite objection. She kept her gaze on Celeste. Did you know my name was removed? Celeste blinked once. Too quickly. Then she smiled. Why would I know anything about royal records? Because you don't look surprised. That silenced the nearest listeners. Celeste's fingers tightened around the token. Then she stepped closer and lowered her voice, though not enough to keep the front row from hearing. You were never going to stand beside a king. Lena looked at the bright disk in Celeste's hand, then at the faces around them, some amused, some embarrassed for her, some hungry for more. This was never about the king. Celeste's smile faltered. It was about whether the choice was mine. For the first time that afternoon, Lena saw something real in her stepsister's face. Not triumph. Alarm. Small, fast, gone. But Lena had spent too many years reading patients who lied about pain and families who lied about injuries. She knew what fear looked like before people remembered to hide it. The registrar snapped the book shut. Presentation concluded. The crowd broke apart, carrying the story with them. Lena remained where she was, the laughter fading into wagon wheels, boots, bells, and gossip spreading through Graymore before sunset. She did not know how her name had been removed, but Celeste knew more than she had said, and Lena intended to find out why. 4 leagues north, night gathered over Castle Blackthorne. The royal mating ball had begun beneath a full winter moon. Alpha King Rowan Blackthorne stood at the head of the great hall while hundreds of eligible women moved beneath silver banners and candlelight. At 32, Rowan had returned from border wars with little patience for ceremony and endured enough council sessions to distrust any tradition claiming destiny could be organized by invitation. Still, pack law required his presence. So he stood there. He waited and felt nothing. Then his wolf surged so violently beneath his skin that Rowan's hand closed around the carved edge of the throne. Not toward the women before him. South, beyond the hall, beyond the castle walls, down the frozen valley. Rowan went still. The pull was immediate and unmistakable. Whatever had reached for his wolf was nowhere inside the ballroom. The royal archivist noticed. My king? Bring me tonight's registry. Minutes later, the book lay open before him. One line had been overwritten. The newer ink was dark. Beneath it remained the faint impression of an original crown eligibility seal. Rowan touched the mark. Whose name was removed? The archivist swallowed. Lena Ashbourne. Rowan looked up. She was publicly denied a token this afternoon? Yes, my king. Across the hall, music continued because no one had yet understood that the evening had changed. Ralvan did. He looked toward the southern windows. The pull remained steady. He rose. Saddle my horse. The first knock came just before midnight. Lena had spent the evening at the Healer cottage pretending she was not angry. She had sorted dried feverfew into labeled jars, ground willow bark for morning tinctures, changed the dressing on a shepherd boy's infected hand, and scrubbed the long work table twice, even though it had been clean after the first time. Work usually quieted her thoughts. Tonight, it only gave them somewhere to circle. Someone had erased her name. Someone had done it with access to Crown records. And Celeste had known. Lena was sealing a jar of blackroot salve when the knock came again, harder this time, followed by the unmistakable sound of several horses shifting in the frozen yard. She set down the jar. At this hour, villagers came for fever, blood, birth, or death, not with horses in formation. Lena crossed the cottage and opened the door. Cold air rushed inside. 6 mounted royal guards filled the lane beyond the gate. Silver wolf insignias, bright against dark winter cloaks. Torchlight moved over bridles and clouds of horse breath. One man stood at the foot of the path. She knew who he was before anyone announced him. Alpha King Rowan Blackthorne was taller than she had expected. Broad beneath a charcoal riding coat, dark hair pushed back from a severe face and a thin scar cutting through his right eyebrow. His eyes were steel blue. They were fixed on her. For one strange second, neither of them spoke. Then something changed in Rowan's face. Not recognition exactly. More like impact. His shoulders locked. His breath stopped for half a beat. The alpha presence around him sharpened so suddenly that one of the horses behind him stamped against the frost. Lena tightened her fingers around the doorframe. Rowan recovered first. Lena Ashbourne? Yes. Were you invited to tonight's mating ball? She stared at him. Apparently not. That wasn't my question. His tone was controlled, but not mocking. Lena studied him more carefully. No, she said. I was not given a token. I know. That answer changed everything. Rowan stepped closer, though he stopped well outside touching distance. Your original eligibility seal was valid. The registry was altered after that seal was entered. Lena's pulse kicked once. So, I was right. Yes. And the registra does not have authority to overwrite a crown eligibility seal on his own? She folded her arms. And you rode 4 leagues through winter roads to tell me that? Something almost human flickered at the corner of his mouth. No. Behind him, one guard looked very deliberately away. Rowan continued. The mating ball closes at the final bell. It has not rung yet. Lena understood. You want me to come? I am offering you the place someone tried to take from you. Am I being summoned? No. She held his gaze. Then I can refuse? Yes. No hesitation. That mattered more than she expected. Lena looked back at the rows of jars and the small stove burning low. Everything here belonged to a life she understood. Then, she remembered Celeste's silver token. You were never going to stand beside a king. Lena turned back. Good, she said. Then I'll come. For the first time, Rowan looked surprised. Only slightly. He offered his hand to help her down the icy path. The moment Lena placed her fingers in his, something moved through him hard enough that she felt it in the sudden tightening of his grip. Rowan's wolf knew her. Not suspected. Knew. The bond struck beneath his ribs with absolute certainty. Mate. But everything else was wrong. There was no answering Omega scent. No warm shift in the air. No mating signature. None of the instinctive recognition every alpha had been taught to expect. Nothing. Rowan released her hand a fraction too quickly. Lena noticed. Is something wrong? No. That sounded very convincing. His eyes returned to hers. I am considering something. Should I be worried? Not yet. That is also not convincing. This time she saw it clearly. The smallest pull at one corner of his mouth. He turned toward the horses. Only then did Rowan notice her bare hands. You don't have gloves. I had other concerns this afternoon. He removed his own and held them out. Lena looked at the dark leather in his palm. Kings usually bring jewels. I wasn't expecting to visit anyone tonight. Poor preparation. One of the guards coughed into his fist. Rowan gave him a flat look, then returned his attention to Lena. Take the gloves. She did. They were still warm. The ride north passed beneath a hard white moon. Lena rode beside Rowan on a gray mare provided by the royal guard, the king never more than a few lengths away. He did not ask about her family. She did not ask why the Alpha King had personally left his own mating ball. Not yet. Castle Blackthorne rose from the ridge near midnight, towers cut black against the sky, and hundreds of windows burning gold. The gates opened before them. Lena pulled Rowan's gloves tighter as they entered the inner courtyard. Servants stopped. Guards straightened. Guests lingering near the steps turned to stare. Rowan dismounted first and came to Lena's side. She accepted his hand this time without comment. As her boots touched stone, the edge of her cloak shifted. A small crescent-shaped birthmark showed beneath her left collarbone. An older royal guard standing near the gate saw it. The color drained from his face. He took one involuntary step forward. Where did you get that mark? The older guard's question followed Lena all the way into the great hall. She had no answer. Beyond the obvious, the crescent-shaped mark had been on her skin for as long as she could remember. Rowan had noticed the guard's reaction, though, and so had she. But the final bell had not yet rung, and whatever the mark meant would have to wait. The doors of the mating ball opened. Conversation faltered in waves. Lena stepped into a hall of silver banners, winter roses, candlelight, and polished stone, wearing the same sage wool dress she had worn in Graymore Square. Rowan's gloves were still on her hands. No jewels, no royal gown. Then she saw the faces she knew. The registrar stood near the eastern wall beside two local noble families, and near the center of the hall stood Celeste. Her silver invitation token rested against the bodice of her burgundy gown. When she saw Lena beside Rowan, all color left her face. Lord Garrick stood several feet behind her. His reaction was different. He was afraid, not embarrassed, not angry. Afraid. Lena filed that away. Rowan stopped beside her, not ahead of her. "Do you want me to announce you?" he asked quietly. "No." He nodded. They had crossed only half the hall when Celeste stepped into their path. "My king." She dipped into a perfect curtsy, then lifted her gaze to Lena. "I'm relieved this misunderstanding has been resolved." "Misunderstanding?" Lena asked. "The registry issue." Celeste smiled with practiced concern. "Though I admit I'm confused. This afternoon you were publicly declared ineligible. Now you arrive beside the Alpha King before the final bell." Several conversations nearby went quiet. Celeste continued, "People may wonder whether someone used a village dispute to manufacture a reason for His Majesty's attention." The registrar stiffened. Rowan's expression hardened. Before he could speak, Lena said, "No." She removed Rowan's gloves and handed them back to him, then faced the registrar. "You held the official registry this afternoon." "Yes." "The notation beside my name. Was it written in the same ink as the original entries?" A pause. "No." "What ink was used?" The registrar glanced toward Rowan. Rowan said nothing. "Royal Administrative Black." "Who can access it?" "Authorized clerks, registrars, certain household secretaries acting under Crown warrant." "Could I?" "No." "Could I amend a Crown eligibility seal?" "No." Lena turned back to Celeste. "So your accusation requires me to have access I do not possess and authority I do not hold." Celeste's cheeks colored. "I said people may wonder. You made sure they would." A murmur moved through the hall. Lena lowered her voice just enough that only those nearest heard. "You knew yesterday that my name would not be there." Celeste's eyes flashed. "You never wanted court," she whispered. "You never wanted any of this. That was not your decision. I kept you off one list, Lena. Stop pretending I stole a life you wanted." There it was. Not a legal confession offered to the Crown. Just the truth between two sisters, spoken because Celeste was angry enough to stop hiding it. Lena held her gaze. "You erased my choice." Celeste said nothing. The royal archivist approached, with the registry open in his hands. Rowan spoke only then. Lena Ashbourne's original eligibility seal was valid when entered. Nothing more. No declaration that Lena was his mate. No royal rescue dressed as romance. Just fact. Lena looked at the archivist. "Then restore my legal standing." The archivist hesitated. "Miss Ashbourne, corrections to an official registry require notation." "Then make one." "Was the original seal valid?" "Yes." "Is there any lawful authorization attached to the later notation?" "No." "Then mark the alteration invalid and restore the original entry." The archivist glanced at Rowan. "This is her petition," Rowan said. "Answer her." The archivist drew a precise administrative line through the unauthorized notation without obscuring it, wrote "void by review" beside the amendment, and added the date and his validating signature beneath the original Crown seal. The original entry remained visible. Lena Ashbourne, Omega, age 24, eligible. The same registrar who had warned Lena against accusing Crown records now stood silent while the record itself proved she had been right to question it. Celeste stared at the page. Lena felt no need to smile. Someone had tried to make her absence official. Now the same record preserved the attempt and corrected it. A sudden pressure tightened beneath Lena's ribs. She inhaled sharply. Rowan's head turned. For one unsettling second, Lena had the distinct sensation that he had felt something she had never meant to reveal. Fear, not of Celeste, not of the crowd, of having her life rewritten again. Rowan's eyes softened, but he did not move closer. Lena was grateful for that. The archivist began to close the registry, then stopped. "My king." Something in his voice changed. Rowan looked at him. "What is it?" The archivist turned several pages toward the household section. "I checked the underlying registration while validating Miss Ashbourne's eligibility." Lena stepped closer. His face had gone pale. "Her eligibility record is not the first alteration." Rowan's voice cooled. "Explain." "Her birth record was amended more than 20 years ago." The hall seemed to narrow around Lena. "Amended how?" she asked. The archivist looked at her. "Enough that I cannot determine the original entry from this volume alone." Lena stared at the page. The humiliation in Graymore had lasted an afternoon. This had begun before she could remember her own name. The archivist lowered his voice. "Someone erased her long before today." By dawn, Lena had decided she would not allow another room full of officials to discuss her life while she waited outside it. The mating ball had ended hours earlier, but Castle Blackthorne had not truly gone quiet. Servants moved through corridors carrying extinguished candles. Guards changed posts beneath narrow windows silvered by frost. And somewhere below, the last musicians were packing away their instruments. Lena had slept for less than an hour. When a royal attendant came to her chamber after sunrise and informed her that the archivist would begin examining the altered birth record without her, she was already dressed. "Take me there." The attendant hesitated. "His Majesty said you should rest." "Did he say I was forbidden to come?" "No." "Then take me there." The restricted archive lay beneath the eastern wing, behind two iron-bound doors and a guard station. Rowan was already inside, standing over a long oak table covered in ledgers. He looked up. "You should be sleeping." "So should you. I am accustomed to poor decisions. That makes one of us." A faint movement touched his mouth, then disappeared. Rowan glanced toward the archivist. "They can handle the records." Lena removed her cloak. "It is my life they are reading." The answer stopped him. Lena held his gaze until the silence made clear she would not be sent away from her own history again. Then Rowan pulled out the empty chair beside him. "Sit." They began with the household register. The official Ashbourne record stated that Lena had been born on Garrick's estate 24 years earlier during a winter storm. The entry was neat, properly witnessed, and wrong. Lena found the contradiction in a healer's ledger. Here, the notation described an unnamed female infant, approximately 10 months old, brought to Ashbourne lands under severe cold exposure, and placed in the care of the household physician. The date was 10 months after Lena's supposed birth on the estate. Rowan read it twice. Could it refer to another child? There is no second infant recorded in the household that year, and a healer would not call a newborn 10 months old. Rowan nodded. He did not argue. That mattered. Hours passed. At some point, Rowan brought a second candle closer to Lena's side of the table without speaking. Later, when a servant delivered tea, Lena reached automatically for the cup nearest her. "Honey, no cream." She looked at Rowan. "You remembered. You said cream tasted like wet wool. That was memorable." She almost smiled. At the far end of the table, they reached for the same lineage book. Their fingers touched. Neither moved immediately. Lena withdrew first. Later, she noticed Rowan flexing his right hand between pages. "Give me your hand." His brow lifted. That sounded dangerously like an order. I'm the healer. He gave it to her. An old injury ran beneath the base of his thumb, the tendons tight from cold and years of strain. You never treated this properly. I was occupied. Move your thumb. He did. Again. Better? Yes. Then stop pretending it doesn't hurt. His eyes stayed on her face. I'll consider it. The next useful record was hidden inside a family index. Beine, Lena Froese. Mara Vane appeared beside a transfer notation from 23 years earlier. My mother's name was Lena Ashbourne. Rowan moved beside her. Not according to this. Further references connected Vane to an older Omega lineage, repeatedly marked with one restricted designation, Failborn. Beside one lineage entry was a small crescent mark. Lena touched the skin below her left collarbone. The old guard at the gate had recognized the shape. The archivist examined the page. The mark appears in older Valeborn family records. It identifies lineage affiliation, not guilt, rank, or legal status. So the guard's fear had not been about a strange birthmark. It had been recognition. Lena sat back. So even my name was borrowed. Rowan was quiet. A name given to keep you alive may not have been meant as a lie, unless no one ever intended to tell me. He had no immediate answer. The final record came from a locked legal volume. Inside was a wartime decree. The language was dry, formal, almost bloodless. Surviving Valeborn children were to be concealed, reassigned under alternate household lines, and removed from ordinary crown registries for reasons of territorial security. Before Lena could examine the accompanying administrative books, the archivist logged and sealed them for tribunal review. A post-war alteration ledger and the authorization cipher key used for official codes. They were evidence already in Crown custody, not conclusions yet. Lena returned to the decree. Then she reached the signature. King Aldrich Blackthorne, Rowan's father. Neither spoke. For the first time since Rowan had appeared at her door, Lena felt the distance between them as something larger than rank. She looked from the dead king's signature to the living king beside her. Rowan's face had gone completely still, the deliberate kind, the kind that meant something underneath it was breaking. Lena closed the decree slowly. The crown that had restored her name the night before had once ordered people like her erased. Lena did not speak to Rowan again until late afternoon. The decree lay between them in the restricted archive, still open to King Aldrich Blackthorne's signature. Morning had passed into a pale winter day. Archivists had come and gone. Neither of them had moved far from the table. Finally, Lena said, "Did you know?" Rowan did not pretend to misunderstand. No. She watched him carefully. "I believe you," she said. Something in his shoulders loosened. Then Lena added, "That does not absolve the crown." The relief vanished. "My father ended a territorial war that had already killed thousands. And what did peace cost?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "I don't know yet. My family would be a good place to start counting." Silence. "You think I am defending him. I think you are trying to understand him. He was my father, and he was my king." Lena stood. "If he believed this was necessary, then I want to know why, but I will not call it protection simply because a king signed it." Rowan came closer. "Neither will I." For several seconds, neither moved. Then heat tightened beneath Lena's ribs. Rowan's expression changed. His eyes dropped to her mouth. Lena understood with sudden, mortifying certainty that he could feel something she had not chosen to reveal. Attraction. Her own. She stepped back once. Rowan moved away first. "You felt that?" "Yes." "What exactly?" "Enough to know you did not intend to tell me." Heat climbed into her face. "That is not an answer." "No." He held her gaze. "It is the only one I am willing to give." while you cannot control what I sense." Lena should have been relieved. Instead, she was aware of how little space remained between them. Her gaze dropped to his mouth. Rowan noticed. His breath changed. He lifted one hand, stopped before touching her, and let it fall. For one suspended second, Lena thought he might ask. Worse, she knew she might say yes. A knock broke the moment. High Chancellor Severin Vale entered, tall and silver at the temples, dressed in dark, formal wool with the narrow chain of his office. "My king, Chancellor." Severin's gaze moved to the decree. "I see you found the old security order." "Security order?" Lena asked. "That was its classification. That is not what it did." "No," Severin said calmly. "But law is often named for the danger it intends to prevent, not the pain it causes." Lena disliked him instantly. "What do you want?" Rowan asked. "The council has reviewed the preliminary findings. Valeborn bloodlines were historically classified as territorial security risks. Until Miss Ashbourne's status is clarified, the crown is exposed." "Exposed to what?" "Uncertainty." "That is not a crime." "No, but kings are rarely destroyed by crimes alone." Rowan's voice hardened. "Say what you came to say." "The council recommends temporary containment under the Royal Containment Statute." Lena went still. "What does that mean?" "Restricted movement, supervised correspondence, limited access to sensitive records." "No," Rowan said. Severin did not blink. "The council may not leave the matter to your discretion if the mate bond has compromised your judgment." Lena heard the words before she understood them. "Matebond." Her eyes turned to Rowan. He did not look surprised. The pull. His reaction when he touched her. The things he could feel that she never meant to show. "You think I'm your mate?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "My wolf recognized you the moment I found you. And you did not tell me? I did not know enough to tell you what it meant?" Another fact about her life someone else had known first. Not betrayal, but it stung. Severin watched them with clinical interest. Rowan's attention stayed on Lena. "I meant to tell you when I understood why the bond was different." She absorbed that without answering. Severin continued, "If you refuse every safeguard because she may be your mate, you give your enemies a simple argument." Lena looked at Rowan. "You knew they might use this." "I knew they would try." "And what do you intend to do?" Rowan did not answer immediately. That hesitation frightened her more than Severin's proposal. A guard appeared in the doorway. "My king." Lord Garrick Ashbourne was stopped at the south gate. Lena turned sharply. "He was leaving?" "With luggage." The guard held out an old folded letter. "This was found among his belongings. It bears Chancellor Vale's name." Severin's eyes did not move. Rowan took the letter, but did not open it. Severin looked at him. "If you do not control this situation, the council will." Then he left. Lena watched the door close. When she looked back, Rowan was still holding the unopened letter. The words mate bond had not stopped echoing in her head. Neither had Rowan's hesitation. For the first time since he had come to her door, Lena could see the conflict clearly in him. Not between truth and lies. Between her right to choose and the institution he still believed could be trusted to protect her. And she did not yet know which one he would choose. Rowan signed the order before dawn. The council had spent most of the night debating Lena as though she were a military problem instead of a woman asleep 3 floors above them. Garrick's seized letter had already been opened under clerk's supervision. It named Mara Vane, instructed Garrick to register the infant Lena under Ashbourne, and ordered that she be kept out of crown mating and inheritance registries. The seal matched Severin's official seal from that year, and the treasury record showed a payment to Garrick 3 days later for the same amount referenced in the letter. The proof was logged, sealed, and set aside for tribunal review. Then the council turned back to Lena. Severin wanted full containment under the Royal Containment Statute. No movement beyond assigned rooms, no restricted records, no private correspondence, no unsupervised contact with anyone involved in the investigation. Rowan rejected it. Then he made the mistake of believing that choosing less harm meant choosing no harm. By sunrise, the order bearing his seal allowed Lena to move inside Castle Blackthorne, but not leave Crown grounds. Her archive access was suspended. All correspondence addressed to her would pass through Crown security. Guards were assigned outside her quarters and the archive corridor. Temporary. Protective. Necessary. He did not wake her to ask. Lena learned about the order an hour later. She returned to the restricted archive after breakfast. 2 guards stepped across the iron-bound door. "Move, please." Neither did. "Did Chancellor Vale order this?" "No, miss." "Then who?" The younger guard glanced at the document. "The order bears the king's seal." For several seconds, Lena heard nothing. "Let me see it." She read every line. Restricted movement. Suspended archive access. Reviewed correspondence. Royal observation. No chains. No locked cell. No raised voice. Just a royal seal turning her movements, her letters, and her access to her own history into permissions someone else could grant or deny. That made it worse. Rowan found her in the Western Council corridor. "Lena, did you sign it?" "Yes." Something in her face closed. "You knew what they did to me." "I know. And you signed it anyway." The council was preparing full containment. If Severin forced a vote, they could have confined you to guarded rooms and removed all access to the case. I used Crown authority before they could. You used it on me. To prevent something worse. Her eyes changed. The same logic dressed in a better coat. You don't get credit for building a smaller cage. Rowan said nothing. Do you know what Garrick always said? That rules were for my protection. That I stayed inside because the world was dangerous. That every choice he took from me was something I would understand later. This is not Garrick. No. Her voice dropped. You have more power. That landed harder than anything the council had said all night. And now the letter made Garrick's history uglier, not simpler. He had once hidden Lena under another name when the Crown wanted Vale-born children erased. Whatever his motives, that concealment had helped keep her alive. But he had spent the years afterward using the same language of protection to control her. Rowan was repeating the part that had done the damage. The order is temporary. So was every locked door until someone decided to open it. She looked at him. Revoke it. I can't do it this second without... Then don't explain it to me. She turned away. Lena. She stopped without facing him. I believed you were different. Then she walked back toward her rooms, royal guards following because Rowan's seal required them to. By midday, the order cost more than trust. A Crown clerk arrived carrying a sealed packet. This came for Miss Ashbourne last night, my king. Rowan looked at the broken security ribbon. Why was it opened? Containment Correspondence Review. Inside was a message from a surviving former household clerk, connected to the post-war alterations. He had agreed to meet Lena at an inn outside Graymore before noon and claimed to possess an original household ledger that could corroborate the post-war alteration record already secured in Crown custody. The message had arrived hours earlier. No one had delivered it. Lena entered and saw the letter in Rowan's hand. What is that? A message meant for you. She read it, then looked at the clock. He was waiting for me this morning. Yes? And no one told me. No. Because of your order hung between them without being spoken, a rider was dispatched immediately. He returned near sunset. The witness had fled the inn after Lena failed to appear. Men had intercepted him on the South Road. He survived. Barely. The original household ledger he carried was gone. The secured post-war alteration record remained intact, but a chance to corroborate it with an original source had been lost. "The man is alive?" Lena asked. "Yes. A healer is with him." Lena closed her eyes once. Then she looked at Rowan. No softness remained. No memory of the almost kiss, of his hand stopping before it touched her, of the restraint that had made her begin to trust him. "You didn't just lock me inside your walls," she said. "You changed what happened outside them." "I know." It was the first answer he had given that did not defend him. "Revoke the order." "I will. And when it is revoked, I'm leaving." His wolf surged. Rowan forced it down. This time, instinct would not make the decision for her. He removed the crown signet from his hand and placed it beside the order. "I'll have the revocation issued now." Lena looked at the ring, then at him. "Good." She turned toward the door. Rowan did not call her back. One man was wounded. A chance to strengthen her case had been lost, and Lena no longer trusted the hand that held the crown. The revocation reached Lena before sunset. No ceremony, no apology attached, just a new order bearing Rowan's seal, canceling the one he should never have signed. She read it once, folded it, and packed. By the time Rowan came to her chamber, her traveling cloak was fastened and her healer case sat beside the door. He stopped when he saw it. "So you meant it?" "Yes." He did not ask her to stay. That almost hurt more. "May I say one thing before you go?" "Say it." "I was wrong. I knew what mattered to you, and I still decided my judgment was safer than your choice." Lena's throat tightened. "I believe you didn't mean to hurt me." Something shifted in his face. Then she finished. "That isn't the same as trusting you not to do it again." Whatever hope had appeared, disappeared without complaint. "I know." He held out the dark leather gloves he had given her the night he came to the healer cottage. "You left them in the archive." Lena reached for them. Their fingers touched. The bond reacted before either could pretend otherwise. Heat traveled up Lena's wrist. Rowan's breath caught. His eyes dropped to her mouth, and for one dangerous second she remembered exactly how close they had stood before Severin interrupted them. She wanted him. That truth had survived everything. It angered her. It also hurt. Rowan did not tighten his grip. Lena pulled away first. "Wanting you isn't the same as trusting you." "No." He stepped aside. "You're free to go." Lena paused at the doorway. "I should never have needed permission." Pain crossed his face, brief and unguarded. She left before it could change her mind. She had nearly reached the lower stair when the alarm bell sounded from the eastern wing. Smoke was already threading beneath the archive corridor doors. The fire had started in a storage room adjoining the restricted archive. Guards and servants formed a bucket line while archivists dragged sealed cases into the stone passage. The main record room was spared, but one side chamber burned hot enough to blacken shelves and crack a window. By the time the flames were contained, tribunal clerks had logged every surviving document and residue sample. They also recorded the castle inventory for the 3 stores of black pine surgical resin. The healer wing jar remained sealed, the military jar remained sealed, and the jar assigned to Severin's private treatment cabinet could not be accounted for. One council servant present near the burned room had residue on his sleeves and a fresh flash burn on one hand. His statement was taken into tribunal custody. Lena watched the evidence sealing herself. Only then did she leave Castle Blackthorne. No guards followed her. By nightfall, the castle was a dark shape against the northern ridge, and Lena hated that she looked back twice. Rowan waited until she was beyond Crown land before entering the council chamber. All 9 seats were occupied. "This morning I used the royal containment statute against Lena Ashbourne without her consent," he said. "I believed limiting the order made it protective. I was wrong." A lord shifted. My king, if this is about the Omega, this is about crown authority. The room quieted. Until the tribunal concludes, I relinquish unilateral crown authority over all Valeborn-related security actions. No arrest, containment order, archive seizure, or restriction will be issued by my seal alone. You would surrender emergency authority during an active investigation? One lord asked. I would surrender authority I have already proven willing to misuse. Severin leaned back. And place the crown itself under review? Yes. Rowan had entered with 7 of 9 council votes reliably behind him. 3 territorial lords withdrew their support before the session ended. 7 became 4. His majority was gone. He could no longer detain Severin on command or control the investigation by royal seal. The tribunal would review his conduct alongside the case. Rowan accepted every term. He did not ask whether Lena would hear about it. Wrong did not become right, only when the person you hurt was watching. 2 valleys south, Lena spent the night in a widow healer's cottage. She should have slept. Instead, she spread the copies and tribunal notes legally released to her across the kitchen table. The lost household ledger bothered her, but the post-war alteration record remained secure. She returned to the fire notes. The smell from the residue had stayed with her since the corridor. Sharp pine, bitter oil, medicinal sweetness, black pine surgical resin. Healers used it in tiny amounts to seal wounds and sterilize instruments. Concentrated, it caught flame quickly and burned hotter than lamp oil. The inventory discrepancy now meant something different. So did the servants burn. Not new evidence, a healer's understanding of evidence already sealed. A knock sounded after midnight. The widow returned with a royal courier. Inside the envelope was a restored copy of Lena's registry page and one note. Your name belongs to you, nothing else. No come back. No forgive me. Lena sat with the page in her hands. It did not repair what Rowan had broken, but he had returned something without deciding what she should do with it. Her eyes moved back to the case notes. She did not need another secret. She needed Severin to speak, to choose a defense, then another, until every answer trapped the next. Lena folded Rowan's note into her healer case. By dawn, she had decided. She was going back to Castle Blackthorne, not because the Alpha King wanted her there, because this time the choice was hers. Lena returned to Castle Blackthorne shortly after noon. No royal escort met her on the road. No guard had been sent to bring her back. She crossed the outer gate under her own name, carrying her healer case in one hand and the restored registry copy in the other. Rowan was waiting in the lower hall. For 1 second, something open crossed his face. Then it was gone. He did not step toward her. He did not say, "You came back. What do you need?" The question stopped Lena more effectively than any welcome would have. Access to the evidence. Through the tribunal? Yes. I already submitted the request. She looked at him. You expected me? No. I expected the evidence to need someone willing to read the whole pattern. That almost sounded like flattery. Almost. The tribunal clerk met them in a smaller archive room, watched only from beyond the door. Before they entered, Lena noticed 3 council voting markers had been removed from Rowan's side of the wallboard. She had heard about his declaration on the road back, but seeing the empty spaces was different. He had not merely apologized after she left. He had made his authority smaller in a room where authority was the language everyone understood. You knew that could cost you the majority. Yes. And you did it after I left? Yes. Why? Because it was wrong after you left, too. Lena looked away first. The answer did not restore trust. It did, however, give trust somewhere to begin again. Rowan stopped outside the archive room. Do you want me there? Lena considered him. Yes. A breath moved out of him. But you do not speak for me. I won't. Do you want guards outside? No. Then there won't be. No argument, no warning, no reminder that Severin was still free. Lena stepped inside. For the next several hours, they worked with evidence the case had already produced. The decree and sunset clause from the old legal volume. The post-war alteration ledger and cipher key sealed from the restricted archive. Garrick's letter, the matching treasury payment, and the authenticated seal logged before the containment order. The fire inventory, black pine residue, and servant's statement sealed after the archive fire. No one brought Lena a final hidden document. She did not need one. She arranged the materials, then rearranged them. Rowan watched. You keep changing the order. Because the order matters. How? If I lead with everything, Severin only has to deny everything. She placed the wartime decree first. If he says the purge was lawful, I make him commit to that. Then the sunset clause. After he commits, I show him the authority expired. Rowan understood. So he blames subordinates. He has to. Lena placed the alteration ledger beside the cipher key. And then I close that exit. Rowan looked over the table. You're not presenting evidence. I'm building a corridor. With one exit? No. Lena met his eyes. With no exits. By evening, winter darkness covered the windows. A servant brought food. Rowan set a plate beside Lena's elbow. She did not look up. You're not going to order me to sleep? I've learned something about orders. Despite herself, Lena almost laughed. The sound never quite became one, but Rowan heard it. His expression softened. They worked another hour. At one point, Rowan leaned over her shoulder to check a date in the treasury record. Too close. Lena felt the heat of him along her back before he touched nothing at all. His scent cedar, cold air, something darker beneath filled the small space. Her heartbeat quickened. Rowan noticed. Neither moved. Lena turned her head. His face was inches away. The silence changed. Not safe. Not dangerous. Wanted. Rowan stepped back first. Lena hated that part of her was relieved. She hated more that another part was disappointed. You're doing it again, she said. What? Leaving space for me to decide. Yes. Because you think that fixes it? His face went still. No. Good answer. Lena looked back at the documents. Part of me still wants to trust you. Rowan did not move. That part doesn't owe me anything. She turned. There was no defense in his face. No request. No hunger sharpened into entitlement. Only restraint. And the fact that she still wanted him stopped feeling like weakness. Lena crossed the space between them. She kissed him. For one heartbeat, Rowan did not react, as if even now he needed certainty. Then his hand came to her waist, careful and warm, and the kiss deepened. Nothing about it was gentle in feeling. Too much anger remained for that. Too much grief. Too much wanting held back too long. When she stepped away, Rowan let her go immediately. This doesn't erase what you did. I know, and I'm not ready to trust you the way I did before. Then don't pretend to. You make that sound easy. It isn't. That, more than anything, made her believe he understood the distance still between them. The tribunal bells rang before sunrise. Lena, dressed in a simple dark blue gown from the healer wing, and pinned her hair back herself. In the tribunal corridor, Rowan waited in the black formal coat of the Alpha King. The chamber doors remained closed. His hand moved slightly toward hers, then stopped. He waited. Lena watched him make the small choice. After a moment, she placed her hand in his. The bond warmed between them. Neither spoke. Then Lena let go. Rowan did not hold on. The tribunal doors opened. The tribunal chamber was full when Lena entered. Counselors occupied tiered benches beneath the banners of the 5 territories. Territorial lords filled the gallery. Severin stood at the center table in formal gray, composed enough to make innocence look like posture. The hearing was public by Severin's own demand. He had wanted witnesses to Lena's failure and to Rowan's embarrassment. Instead, every whisper, retreat, and contradiction would now belong to the record as surely as the documents on the table. Lena felt the weight of the room, but not the old humiliation from Graymore Square. There, other people had decided what her name meant. Here, she had come prepared to make one man answer for what he had done with it. Rowan took the seat assigned to the crown, not beside Lena, close enough to be present, far enough that no one could pretend he was speaking for her. Before the clerk called the hearing to order, Rowan leaned toward her. "Do you want me beside you?" "Yes." His shoulders eased. "But if I fall, don't catch the argument for me." "I won't." Severin spoke first. The kingdom was at war. Vale-born operatives crossed territorial lines undetected. King Aldrich authorized emergency measures to prevent collapse. His eyes moved toward Lena. What Miss Ashbourne calls a purge was, under wartime law, a security response. Lena let him finish. "Your defense is that the removals and reassignments were lawful because King Aldrich's wartime decree authorized them?" "That is correct." "Every action?" "Every action taken under that authority." Lena opened the decree. "Then we agree on what gives your defense legal force." She turned to the final page. "The decree expires 30 days after the formal cessation of hostilities." A murmur moved through the chamber. The alterations continued after that deadline. Severin did not look at the page. Then subordinate officials continued procedures after the authority had lapsed. "So now your position is that the post-war alterations occurred without senior authorization. If they occurred unlawfully, yes." Lena opened the alteration ledger. "Then explain SV3. Severin's gaze dropped to the code. "That proves nothing." Lena opened the council cipher key. SV3 was assigned to Deputy Security Secretary Severin Vale. Silence. "Administrative authorization is not personal involvement," Severin said. "Senior officers signed hundreds of classifications. So you authorized the process but did not know individual cases." "That is what I said." Lena took out Garrick's letter. "Then explain why you wrote directly to Lord Garrick Ashbourne." She read only the relevant instructions. "Register the infant under Ashbourne, suppress the maternal name Mara Vane, and prevent entry into crown mating and inheritance registries." "A letter can be manufactured," Severin said. Lena placed the treasury record beside it. "The payment to Garrick was issued 3 days later, same amount referenced in the letter, your authorization. Then the seal authentication. The wax impression carries the same crescent chip documented on your official seal from that year." Something finally cracked in Severin's composure. "You expect this tribunal to trust material recovered from an archive that burned?" Lena turned toward him. "You are saying the fire makes the surviving evidence unreliable?" "I am saying contamination destroys confidence." "As a healer, I agree." That surprised him, which is why the burn residue matters. She explained black pine surgical resin, hotter than lamp oil, distinctive in smell and residue. Castle inventory listed 3 sealed stores. The healer wing jar remained sealed. The military jar remained sealed. The jar assigned to Severin's private treatment cabinet was missing. "That does not prove I carried it into the archive," Severin said. "No." Lena turned the page. "The council servant found with residue on his sleeves also suffered a flash burn consistent with black pine ignition." The servant's existing testimony was read into the record. He had carried the jar to the archive under Severin's instruction. Severin changed tactics. Convenient. An injured servant, an ambitious Omega, and a king compromised by a mate bond. Whispers spread. Rowan rose halfway. His alpha presence rolled through the chamber. Lena looked at him. Nothing more. His jaw flexed. Then he sat down. He let her keep the room. The choice struck deeper than any public defense could have. Severin saw it too. Perhaps His Majesty has learned restraint today. He did not show the same restraint when he confined her. The chamber changed. The presiding judge turned to Rowan. Did you issue a containment order against Lena Ashbourne? Yes. Without her consent? Yes. Did it restrict her movement, correspondence, and archive access? Yes. Do you acknowledge misuse of Crown authority? Rowan could have explained that the council had threatened worse. He could have called it protection. He did neither. I do. And you accept Crown review? Yes. Knowing it may permanently restrict your authority? Yes. Lena looked at him. The answers repaired nothing. But for the first time, Rowan allowed the consequence to belong entirely to him. No intention is defense. No love is excuse. The judge returned the floor to Lena. She faced Severin. He had called the program lawful. The law had expired. He blamed subordinates. His cipher authorized the post-war alterations. He denied knowing her case. His letter named her and Mara. He called it false. His payment and seal authenticated it. He attacked the archive material. The fire led back to his cabinet and servant. She needed nothing else. You have changed your defense every time the last one became impossible, Lena said. Severin's face had gone pale. You call what happened to my family peace because the word sounds cleaner than erasure. She stopped there. The tribunal withdrew. Rowan did not approach Lena while they waited. He remained where the court had placed him. When the judges returned, Severin Vale was removed from office pending criminal proceedings. Because Rowan had surrendered unilateral authority, detention required tribunal approval. The presiding judge signed the order. Only then did the guards move. Rowan watched Severin taken away without issuing a command. After the chamber began to empty, he approached Lena. You were right to make me let go. You had to choose to let go. He nodded. No kiss followed. A tribunal clerk approached. Miss Ashbourne, do you wish to claim immediate restoration of the Valeborn title? Lena looked at the open record before her. Not tonight. The clerk waited. Lena placed one hand over her restored name. Tonight I only want my own name back. The Crown Review lasted 6 weeks. By the time the ruling was read, winter had begun to loosen its grip on the valley. Snow withdrew from the lower roads, water ran beneath the bridge at Graymore again, and the first stubborn green showed along the southern fields. Rowan kept the throne. He did not keep the same crown. The review found that he had not used the containment statute for personal gain, but intent did not erase the fact that he had restricted a civilian without consent and without independent review. The ruling permanently removed the king's unilateral authority to issue civilian containment orders, impose emergency bloodline restrictions, or seal certain civil records without a second legal signature. Future emergency actions required independent review. Some of Rowan's oldest allies called it humiliation. 2 territorial lords who had once voted with him on nearly every major issue refused to return to his coalition. A third demanded written concessions before supporting Crown policy. A border measure Rowan once could have passed with a seal took 3 days of negotiation and 2 amendments. He accepted all of it. The throne remained his. The ease of using it did not. Lena noticed the difference before Rowan ever spoke about it. He asked more questions now, not performatively, not because she was watching, because power had stopped feeling harmless in his hands. She did not move into the royal wing. She kept rooms near the healer quarters and returned regularly to Graymore, where patients cared very little about bloodlines and considerably more about whether their fever broke before morning. She also joined the legal committee drafting protections against erased identities and misuse of emergency Crown authority. No one gave her a title she had not asked for. That mattered. Garrick remained under legal restriction while his conduct was reviewed separately. The letter seized from him had already shown the oldest contradiction in their history. By registering Lena under Ashbourne and keeping her out of Crown bloodline records, he had once helped hide a child the old policy meant to erase. Lena could acknowledge that without rewriting the years that followed. When she visited him once, she said, "You helped keep me alive." Garrick looked almost relieved. Then she added, "That never gave you ownership of the life you saved." They parted without forgiveness and without hatred. For Lena, that was enough. Celeste's interference with Lena's eligibility entry was handled separately from Severin's case. She did not contest what she had admitted at the mating ball. She had deliberately kept Lena off the list because she believed Lena did not want court life, and because Garrick had taught her that Crown attention was dangerous. Intent did not return the choice she had taken. Celeste lost her court privileges and left Garrick's household before spring. Lena did not ask for details. She had spent too much of her life measuring herself against Celeste to make freedom another form of watching her. Rowan and Lena rebuilt more slowly. There were dinners that were not official, arguments that ended without orders, walks where Rowan asked whether she wanted company instead of simply appearing beside her. The mate bond remained between them, warm and undeniable, but neither treated it as a verdict. On the first evening that smelled truly like spring, Rowan found Lena in the healer garden. She was cutting dead stems from winter herbs when his shadow crossed the soil. "You're standing on my time." Rowan looked down and moved one boot. "My apologies. To me, you're the time." The time appears less forgiving. She smiled before she could stop herself. He wore the royal cloak that evening. After a moment, Rowan said, "Mate law would allow me to request formal claiming." "I know." "I'm not going to." She looked at him. "If there were no bond, no crown, no law telling us what we are, would you still choose me?" Lena looked at the cloak. "Ask me without the crown." Understanding moved across his face. Rowan unclasped it and laid it over the garden wall. He did not remove the throne from his life. He removed it from the question. "Lena, will you stay?" She let the silence stretch. Once, powerful people had treated her hesitation as permission to decide for her. Rowan waited. "Yes," she said. This kiss was different from the one before the tribunal. That kiss had meant, "I still want you." This one meant, "I choose you again." Months later, Lena stood in the council chamber before a new charter protecting erased bloodlines and limiting emergency authority over civilians. The clerk handed her the pen. Rowan stood beside her. He did not reach for it. Lena signed slowly. Lena Vane Ashbourne. All three names remained. The mother she had lost. The life she had survived. The woman she had chosen to become. For most of her life, other people had decided where her name belonged. In the end, Lena learned that belonging was not the place where someone wrote your name. It was the place you chose to write it yourself.